Good evening and welcome to the Medium channel where we bring you the spirituality behind the message. And I'm very happy and thrilled to have Sharita Star back to give us the heads up on the summer. It's a great time to be alive, but it's challenging. We're healthy. We're, well, sort of free anyway. Well, we're free in our own hearts and we're connected to spirit and source. And nothing Sharita or I are going to say is meant to freak you out, just to put that out there. It's not doom and gloom. This is to prepare. And the numerology and astrology can give us a very accurate read on the energy and the flows and what to expect. But it's up to us as a collective, as well as individually, what we do with those energies and what we do about it. So without further ado, hi, Sharita. I hope you're well.
Hi, Adam. Hi, everyone on the Medium channel and all the great listeners. As always, an honor to be here and have the privilege of being able to speak with all of you. I'm sure all of you are a little amped up, no matter where you may be in the world or watching this from right now, or as a replay. As this will be in the archives. But thank you for being here live tonight. And if you have questions after we, get into everything, Adam and I thought upon discussing how to work with tonight, instead of me just like sitting here and math geeking out with you for an hour, that we would like kind of keep it more on a conversation level. So you let us know how you like that format. And
Yeah, so sorry you have to look at my mug for the next, 45 minutes, but oh well.
we just want to
It could be
see.
worse.
Well, we want the evidence of how spirit backs up the stars.
Yes.
So, and you and I work so well together this way. And we've been doing this on live events ourselves with galleries and things like that for years. So I thought, well, why not do it this way for this, even though it's more of a collective read and just seeing what's going on. So, of course, as of a week, I think, was it a week ago? It was summer solstice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Here we are. We're in it. We're past the midway point of the year and heading into whatever it's going to be as we keep rolling along. But one of the things I've coined this summer of 22 is it's the summer of surprise,
Mm.
big time. And as we really close out June here and enter July, I don't think you're going to be even any lack of any further entertainment. Uh, and I don't want to even be like joking about that, but I certainly think what's going to keep happening here is it's certainly not going to be backing down on the things in one respect are designed to distract you, and
Mm.
things in other respects that are actually things that you really do need to be paying attention to. So, I always tell people there's a lot of signals out there versus, amongst all this noise that has been created. And one of
Yeah.
the things that we did as a nation, because obviously, I'm gonna really focus on America tonight and just how we're laying it out in the country. But yes, it'll be an overall collective energy. And anytime you're hearing about significant dates and how things are overlapping and conjuncting and getting all funky, knowing how this is going to affect the entire globe, not just what's happening in America, but what's happening in our country's chart is highly significant. But more importantly, it's what's happening in your life, because how any individual truly needs to prepare for what is coming. It's up to an individual. How one person that lives in New York City needs to prepare is very different than from where, let's say, for example, where Adam and I personally live. We live in the country. We live in, a very, out in the, not in the total sticks, but, we live
Right.
outside of an urban area. So our preparation is going to be highly different than what a person in New York would really need to be doing, or any major city across the country. And that's, where I think you're going to see your highest stress levels, depending on
Mm.
where everything wants to be happening this summer, or where the noise is going to be going off in one regard, but where some signals will be going off in other ways. And I also think Mother Nature herself has a few of her own
Oh
unexpected
yeah.
surprises. And I'll tie in some very strong dates that I think some of that is going to be happening. But as we open July on Friday, we have the way that July opens and closes is highly connected to Mars in
Now,
aspects.
just quickly, isn't it true that, I mean, that you can give sort of the general, like, USA or whatever, but for us personally, like for me personally, I would need to know my own chart, right? And how that's affecting
Yes,
me
I mean, there's
personally.
absolutely that
And
would
just
be.
by coincidence that your website just happened to come up on the screen magically right before I said that. So if anybody needs Sharita services, I can vouch that she's quite good and quite detailed. So, and she also does blogs like on different things on the website, and has a Patreon group. So you can get all of her information on her website. So I just
Yeah,
had to
it's all
plug you for a
there.
second.
Just
Now
go
you know.
explore. The homepage has just about like everything you need. There's major things right on the homepage, and then I have a right sidebar that actually is on any page of the website. It's the same information. So whether you're looking at a blog, you're looking at the services, you'll always see the same information on the right side, and that has the Soul Certainty community on Patreon. We'll be putting this video where the spring update is right now, but if you want to go back and rewatch that, see how spring turned out. And just all kinds of things. And I have what will be coming. I've got a new podcast coming out in July. My old horoscopes are they are retired. After 9 years, we've gone through a 9-year cycle of horoscopes. So they're hereby retired, and as of this past Sunday, actually. So that was a little sentimental, but there's a wonderful new door opening, and I'll be if you are on my mailing list, you're going to be getting a lot of information this Sunday about how everything's going to be moving forward with the new podcast, which is going to be coming a little later on in July. So I'm excited about that, and so that's going to be another way for people to keep up. I'm kind of returning to my radio roots because I used to do radio for many years, and I did an old show called "What's Your Sign? I Have Your Number," and so that was a fun thing I did for years. And what I did with Empower Radio for the last 9 years is it was just a 4.5-minute podcast every week, and it just sort of gave a little tidbit of what's happening and a little bit of a theme for the week. But we're just moving out of that type of style, and going to get back into having these organic conversations. So I'll be having a round table with some special guests things. So you'll be coming on my podcast as well in the future.
Maybe I might even get invited. Maybe.
Pardon?
I said, maybe I'll even get invited.
You already are invited. I just haven't. I've got to get that. I got to get my system down again, and then. But I have been told I'll be having very broad, inviting other people in, as special guests, and having a good time with that, and just giving that broad perspective of how to look at all of this. So in getting back to cycles and everything that's happening.
Anyway, I'm not ignoring you guys' comments, but Sharita can't see them. So if you have any questions, I'll keep an eye on it. But for now, I'm going to hide her website. You all have the website. We don't need this on the screen the whole time. All right, let's do it.
All right. So going in. So right after solstice, and getting all of understanding, everything is in cycles, right? Everything we do in astrology, numerology is just understanding how this rotation of cycles is going, whether it's coming from a number or it's coming from the astrology. It's always, there's cycles. We spin in time all the time, in 9 from the numbers, and then pretty much it's like cycles, I guess you would call it 12 in astrology because we're working with 12 signs, but it doesn't kind of work that way, but it does, but it's not how the explanation of 9 works with numbers so easily. So as we cross the threshold of summer solstice last week, another significant thing started to happen for America. And this is where you got Friday's news. And I'm not going to get into the controversy about that because that's not the point. It is just the point that it happened. And it really, to me, attributed to the energy of what happened. So most of you know, if you've been, listening for, a while, or if you have, you're just hopping on now and you don't know what America is dealing with its Pluto return, hop on back to the website. You'll see that link is it's near-death experience for America to rebirth, understanding of Pluto return 2021 to 24. So this country is in this cycle for a while. We're not getting out of it lickety split. It is not like, having just a Mercury retrograde pass for 3 weeks and then it's over with, and then we got to recover for a little bit and then we move on with our life. This Pluto return is intense because, again, when you're looking at an outer planet like Pluto, who is the furthest out and the ones that we're watching, he takes, 14 to 20 years to get through one zodiac sign. Okay, so that's why it takes forever for Pluto to do anything. So we're at this point in the country's existence where this is the first time in 244 years Pluto has been back to the natal point of the country's chart. And there's a whole video that's embedded that I did back last November talking about this and what it means for America. And there's a lot of hit points with this Pluto return. We had one back in February. As soon as that happened, the Ukraine war got going. And then that got itchy. And here we are with dealing with all that. Now, what happened the day after summer solstice is we've got 3 big hits of this Pluto return that happened, and that's due to the way that the planet is retrograding. So it's getting off the point of exact, and then it's getting back on it, and then it pulls off again, and then it gets back on it again one more time at the close of the year. So we're in and out of this like intensity of what this Pluto return is bringing in this, again, a theme of it feels like a near-death experience for America, but there's this rebirthing process that wants to come out of this. This is happening in the country's value systems. Anything that is established, that we value, we cherish, we possess, we own, we have, that totally understand. Anything monetary, materialistic value, but it's also values in general, like whatever your approach is to something or your take on something. So look what happened on Friday. We had this huge reversal. Pluto, the day after solstice, started to hit this 27-degree mark back in America's chart again. And it's going to keep tootling backwards. This is going to be happening until August 4th. The whole time frame is when the Pluto is sitting on that same natal point. The exactitude, like the total days of exact, is July 9th through the 11th. So that's very significant. That we'll probably see something a little bit more dicier show up around those days. Don't know what it is, but something very overturning. And here's what happened, as we, had just gotten into, it took 2 days of that return coming backwards under retrograde, because Pluto is retrograde right now. So we're getting all of this, like, retrograde, as you know, even from an outer planet, which does it for months on end, it's still a cycle of reflection. It's a lot more subtle in certain regards than what a Mercury retrograde, Venus, or upcoming in the fall, what a Mars retrograde will be pulling out. Nevertheless, the outer planets are still important, but it's a very conscious, it's a strong collective consciousness that it does more than, oh no, you know what, don't launch your business right now, or don't get married, or all the things that a Mercury tells you to do or not do. The outer planet retrogrades are not designed that way. And even in your own chart, wherever they're happening, you want to be able to look at that area of your life with some form of awareness and what can I clean up here for these months that we're dealing with retrograde motion. So Pluto went retrograde at the end of April and will continue to do so through early October. So we've got months that this is going to be happening. And then it turns around, and then Pluto will make one more direct hit on the natal Pluto of America in December, moving into like closing out the year. And like, well, we've talked about the end of the year is just going to be whatever, which is why you want to prepare for the end of the year now. And I, can't stress that enough for anybody. None of us really know how all of this is really going to turn out. But again, July is the month of the biggest month of surprise, although I don't think August is going to disappoint either. And when you're looking at July, we're in a 2022 year. That's a 6 vibration. We've coined the full year as the mastering the value of compassion. If you don't have compassion this year, you're not going to do very well. But we do this spin in time thing every 9 years, every 9 months, every 9 days within the month, where we spin in time 3 cycles in 9 in our own forecast within one given month. So there's always 3 numbers in our personal forecast that we really, when we get into the nitty gritty details, we always want to be looking at. But that also applies to the nation, and it applies to any entity you have. It's a business, what have you. So July on a universal month level is a 13-4 vibrating month, which is guided by the infamous planet of Uranus.
You know something? When you were talking about like July 7th and 9th, in my mind, like I was seeing soldiers, and I'm wondering if one of the things that may pan out, there may be like some civil unrest, the military, detaining crowds, that kind of a thing. So I just wanted to interject that because that popped in my mind when you were talking.
I think it's highly plausible.
Yeah. Like you said, we don't know what's going to happen. And
we don't know. But what's interesting is also, as we're opening the month, right? Like exactly on July 1st at night, it aspect happens like 10, when I wrote it down, 10:52 at night, I think, or 10:14 at night, July 4th, Eastern Standard Time. Mars, because I'll circle back to what we were talking about. Mars is highly significant with how we start and end this month in the aspects it's making. It's going to make 2 powerful aspects this month. The first one is what it's doing. It's going to square the Pluto retrograde to start, and then to start the month on July 1st. So that's, you got Aries and Capricorn trying to battle it out. That's never a fun argument.
Doesn't sound fun to me.
And then, Mars is going to move into Taurus, and will take the first, take the month of July to get all the way to 18 degrees of Taurus, which is where Uranus is. Now, Uranus is the planet in charge of July through the 4 universal month, which Uranus is our planet that says, expect the unexpected, expect reform, expect originality, expect unpredictability. And you're going to have to be clever and allowing and adaptive and not resistant to whatever shows up, so that you move through it with fluidity rather than go, oh, I don't want to do that. And people crying and having a meltdown. But I think you're going to notice a lot of meltdowns in July because people have not allowed themselves to work with whatever needs to change.
Right.
We still have a lot of people that I don't want to say it in any form of a judgment. We still have a lot of people who are pretty blissfully unaware of anything going on energetically. They think we're actually back to some form of normal. And I'm like, oh, no. No, I think July is going to change anybody's mind that anything is back to normal. So as we close the month, this intensity starts to build the days right as we're closing July. And then August 1st opens, and and this also happens early evening East Coast time on the 1st of August. You have Mars conjunct Uranus, which is not quite retrograde yet, but it will be in August. But Uranus has gotten on its station to go retrograde August 24th by August 1st. So Mars is going to conjunct Uranus, made that square to Pluto on July 1st, which in America's chart is between the nurturing, the family, the home environment, like you could call it our soil. You got combative little Mars running around trying to stir up trouble. Everybody's angry. And it's going to be banging against the value system of what's trying to come through this rebirth and regenerative energy that Pluto is pulling in. And again, you're getting this combative energy that pulls through this entire month, and who knows what surprises are going to show up. And then we meet up with that Mars coming to the next major planet that's there to interact with, which is the Uranus and Taurus. Now, what'll happen around and about by the end of the week, I don't know what kind of funky surprises we'll have. Anyway, it could be anywhere in the world because this is collective energy, but that is what I just described is how it's going to affect the nation's chart. But as it conjuncts Uranus at the very end of July and then opening the door of August, you're going to have I don't know, because you take aggressive Mars, take action. I don't care how I do it. I'm going. You need to be courageous with Mars. You need to have a warrior presence with Mars. But when the collective energy is not working in that capacity, you're going to get the other outcome. And then you're going to put it with the planet of the unexpected, and put them on top of each other. And then the other thing that is, there's these things, they're called the North and the South nodes. They're presently in Scorpio and Taurus right now as well. And they're like I call them more like an astrology 400. Like they're kind of, I don't want to say you can't talk about them, but they're harder to explain to people and enough to think about with astrology. So, but what happens on that day of August 1st is that not only does the Mars and the Uranus stationing to turn retrograde the 24th of August come together, it conjunct the North Node in Taurus as well, all at 18 degrees. Now, 18 for me in the numerology represents the concept of spiritual material conflict. That's where I think if you don't have a clue that supplies are lacking and supplies are drifting and not around or on some form of a halt, I'll be very surprised. And the other thing that will happen between July 1st and then what will happen by the 1st of August is you got first of two full moons in the countries. Okay, where Pluto is and where we also are going to be starting our 8 personal year as a nation, which is Saturn guided. We're going to have two full moons in the same area of life where the Pluto is and where Saturn is for the country. So where this Pluto return is just revamping the value system, it's just taking down every establishment that's not standing in some form of accountability and security. So basically, what will happen over these years is wherever lies, deception, unauthentic, anything has gone on in an establishment, doesn't matter what it is. If it's something we value and it wasn't done in integrity, it's coming down. It's all coming down.
I've been sensing the same. Absolutely. And I'm wondering, with the new moon, when the moon is new, that sets the template for the whole lunar cycle. And then you have Neptune so active at 7 degrees, which is also about illusions and delusions and stuff like that. So just another thing to add to the fun of
yesterday's new moon. Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, and I've been, and this is something like I get into when I talk about my soul certainty community is all the geeky details unraveled for you. and explained in deeper details all the time, is Neptune on yesterday's new moon in Cancer. That was a 7-degree new moon. Neptune itself is stationed at 25 degrees of Pisces. 25 is a 7 energy as well. Neptune in Pisces is, it's like it's just a whole see through the illusion fest.
Yeah.
You know,
For sure.
and so Neptune went retrograde yesterday morning. We had the new moon later at night on the East Coast time. Now, the 7 degrees that the new moon hit at was also, on the numbers end, that's guided by Neptune. So this was a total, I called it the silent listen new moon. It's like had more of a full moon feel to it, even though it's going to pull in some new energy, but it's the kind of energy where you're going to have to sit back and you got to keep watching. You cannot jump to conclusions. You don't get triggered. We're under the sign right now that is the sign of emotion. It's the sign of everybody can get reactive versus responsive. And that is exactly what, whoever the powers that be are. But that's what they're up to. They want us to stay as distracted, unsettled, and uncertain as possible. Because that's how you control people, is that you get them in a place of, like, we're all deer in the headlights, like, oh my God, whoa, what's really going to go on here? So you have to step back. The more people step back right now and, take your information in, don't be not looking, but make it like a kind of more of a exercise and a practice than an obsession right now. Because I know I've fallen for it in these times. I have fallen for it hook, line, and sinker. Sometimes I'm just like hanging. I got to go see like what the latest update is on this, that, and every other thing. And then I go back and I listen to these things and I just sit there and I'm listening and going, wow, this is exactly what the planets had to say. And I'm just going like, I already got my own tune. I already got my own channel to listen to. Sometimes I just don't need that extra outside noise. If people just need to truly be ready for whatever it is that they need to adapt to, especially this month coming up in July. That's number one. And then we're going to pop into August. Again, under that intensity of that major conjunction going on. So, knowing where how your Taurus area of life sits in your chart and because that stacking up of all those planets in conjunction are going to be, there's something a little wiry going to be happening. Now, then what'll happen just before that, we've got another new moon. This time it'll be in Leo. But this particular new moon, what's also happening is the day of the new moon, there's another outer planet turning retrograde, and that's Jupiter, who will be doing so at, I think it's 8 degrees of Aries. So whatever's cooking at the end of July, it's fired up, whatever it is. There's so much fired up energy. So that's going to be guaranteed. Whether it's super hot, the power grids go down. Like I said, I don't. The unpredictable is the unpredictable. That's why it's going to be called the unpredictable. It's going to be some form of the unknown, but we know it's going to be kind of intense as to how it's going to come. Now, what'll come in by August 11th is another full moon, like the one back that'll happen on July 13th. For America, this is going to be in the same exact area of the chart where the Pluto return is happening, where the Saturn is governing the accountability in America new personal year we're going to enter on July 4th. We're going to get out of this. I don't think Americans really healed a lot in the past year, which is what was the calling of the year. But I think, if you can't step into accountability in 2022 to 23 for America, that's where you're going to have some more trouble. So we have 2 full moons in this country's chart that are taking away, aside from the Pluto return engaged, what the Saturn's going to be up to under retrograde, by the way, as well. 2 retrograding outer planets in the country's possessions, our value system, supplies, what we have, the touch it, the feel it, the material world. There's going to be less and less and less. And this area of life also rules money. It also rules money and security. So whether, whatever you're hearing about, we do hear the value of the dollar could just totally disappear. Maybe the whole thing just goes done. I don't know. But it's going to be, and then when we're looking at August, it's a universal 5 month under the 14, which is also all about movement and more change. So there's just going to be so much more on the way. That's a Mercury guided month. And then what we're also going to be gearing up for is another Mercury retrograde. So the approach to that will begin August 20th. That will start September 9th. So now we're winding down summer. The other thing that starts in early September on the 3rd is the approach to the Mars retrograde that's going to engage in the fall on October 30th. But that is something people need to start preparing for now as well. Because if you're not really ready for how the fall is going to roll out supply-wise, you either won't afford it or you won't be able to find it. One of the two, or both. Because I think the prices of everything are just going to keep going this way, especially your gas, whatever the case may be. I mean, there's a lot of predictions being thrown all over the place, how much all this stuff is going to cost, and energy wise, not the way you and I talk about energy, Adam, but the actual tangible energy that makes things function, like this internet live stream right now. So it's a whirlwind that's going on, so buckle up. But what I find is I think there's going to be a lot of justice coming. And I don't know if you've been paying attention to a couple of things in the last couple of days that have come out. There's a couple of very strong cases that they're going to prison.
Jail sentences have been issued.
Jail sentences are being issued. It is coming out. So like, there is consequences for actions for a change, and that needs to happen as well. When things have not been done accountably, there has to be consequences. You just can't let it ride like that.
Somebody flashed Hillary Clinton's name. Certainly that may.
They haven't arrested her yet, to the best of my knowledge, but someone.
Trump
there is obviously someone who was very tied to people she knew.
Absolutely.
And it's funny with that, and I just don't want to mention names. People know who I'm talking about. People are already saying, "Oh my God, they're only giving her 20 years. That's not enough." And I'm like, think about it. She's 60 years old. She'll be 80. What is she going to do with her life after 80? Number one, I mean, not that she can't, but it'll be interesting to see if she even stays alive at this point.
I don't think personally.
I don't think she's going to stay alive for the duration. And then there's another very prominent singer who got tried in Brooklyn today, and he's also 30 years. And then he's got another trial in Chicago to do. And who is also not. And I remember that 3 years ago when that came out, and I think, let's say he was on Saturday Night Live, or there was something, and then it just sort of whatever, but justice has been served as well. So at least these things are starting, it's a slow process, but if you're kind of.
They're flashing names on here. They know who you're talking about.
Yeah. So You know, like I said, I'm not here to create controversy. I'm not a, you know, I don't get into the conspiracy theories. I'm not into all that stuff. I study planets. I see how things are gonna, you know, unfold. Um, and there's a lot of truth coming out in everything that we're going to be watching. But I still think, even for the aware, we'll be just as spellbound, depending on what it is. You know, what's
This
going to happen.
Uranus is always a surprise.
Yeah, Uranus is a surprise for all of us. I mean, like I said, you can't even, and you are one of the best psychics I know. But
Oh,
even in
thank
the
you.
being the best psychic, it'll still take you by surprise, because that's the whole
Oh,
point of it being the
totally.
unknown, right? You know. So
If people have the mistaken assumption that psychics know everything. No, we don't know everything. We feel energy, we sense things. But and you know, you can look back at my 2022 predictions. A lot of stuff's come true, but there are
yes.
things I said that didn't come to pass. And yeah, we can only sense the energy and sense the timelines and understand that it's all fluid. It can all change. So knowing the planets gives you a big leg up. Knowing the numbers gives you a big leg up, because at least you know the flavor of what to expect.
It's exactly, that's a great way to say it. It's the flavor of what that energy is going to taste like, you know. And sometimes energy doesn't taste as good as it does at other times. So I like to be perfectly
Not as good
blunt.
as pizza.
And yeah, it's not always a good pizza, you know. It's like, especially, it's not a pizza made in New York, you know.
Yeah, don't
Very
need to
challenging to
bother.
find good pizza outside of New York, unless it's a New Yorker somewhere else. I've always noticed, but
Totally.
the but yeah, because we were talking about this, I think we were talking about it before we got on live. Is you know, you had said back in, you know, your 22 predictions, and then I kind of went over that, and that's something else as well. You'll see that up on the site there. The stars in spirit. I basically take Adam's video from the beginning of the year, and I just clock through it and back him up with what he said. And one of the things you did say was, it's some form of a change in leadership this month we're going into.
July, yeah.
And
Somebody being stepping down,
possibly it
forced
could
down.
be who runs America at this point. It's possible. I know they had I know they had to end the summit that they were all at very early, and somehow they're all leaving early because of the weather, some supposedly.
Well,
So,
there
so I don't
are,
know what that's about.
or
Um,
some medication ran out for dementia or something like that. Or, oh, did I give it away? Oops.
well, you know, I mean, yeah. Well, we'll see what keeps happening here. It's going to be an interesting July. Let's just put it that way. No question about it. But, you know, again, like I said in the very beginning, keep preparing as you need to prepare. And if we get into some form of a crisis, which plausibly could happen from numerous angles at this point between
Yeah.
July and August, and especially moving into September. Because again, once you get there, once you get the what'll be fun in September coming up too is we got Mercury retrograde engaging. So, you know, that'll be stationed on September 9th. And we have a full moon on the 10th, the day after. So it's going to be a very tumultuous start into September, and that getting back to school routine will be very offset in some way, shape, or form. It is not going to be, I don't know how it could go canceled, possibly, or it just won't go.
Possibly.
It just won't go the way, as usual with any Mercury retrograde. It doesn't go the way we originally planned, and so we're just getting into, you know, getting back to school at that time. So we'll see how that routine rolls out, or kind of doesn't. You know,
Somebody typed in, mentioning like the rulings on giving the children the medicine, so to speak, and
and
that can be a big source of why things get dicey.
And okay, well, thank you for bringing that up, because that's something where in this country, that conjunction I talked about with the Uranus and the Mars at the close, opening up August. On top of that node is that for the nation is in our area of children.
Go
So
figure.
whether there's something we've seen in reactions and they're not going to be able to deny it anymore, you know, I don't know. And I'm not here to tell people what to do about that. All I know is I can advise people to just do really good research before you make a decision. That
Exactly.
is it's either irreversible or you couldn't do anything about it at that point. That's all. Just do your research in that. But I think regardless of, you know, I think we're going to have some pretty heavy things happening in that way. And again, they're not going to be able to be hid and covered up, which I believe from what I've researched and how I've been discerning and objective. There's a lot we don't know or have not been told about in our, you know, supposedly trusted sources of true information. We're not being told about what is really happening with people.
Yeah. When profit trumps
Yes,
safety of
and
individuals, people
well, you
sooner
could
or
put
later will
me
catch
into.
up.
I already had my miss whatever you want to call it in the entire medical system because I've witnessed it firsthand and more than once in my life with people that I love who are no longer here.
Yeah,
So
I have.
I know exactly what it's capable of and how that profit before health is even, you know, that's where another topic for another day, but that is one
Yeah,
of the systems of
I think
value
they
in
may
this.
have already demonetized this video, so
We don't want to get, you know, whatever, but that's
whatever.
it'll certainly be one of the systems in this country that will be exposed for any inauthentic things it has done. That's coming as well. That's a whole part of the Mars retrograde conversation because that's
Yeah,
very significant for the country when that shows up. Big time, big time. So we got a lot coming to unravel the rest of this incredible story that we've all been witnessing. But as you know, the year concludes, it's not good. It's like you just have to think like maybe some people relate to video games or not, but it's like, you know, like you kind of go to another level in the video game. Well, that's kind of what we're doing energetically is, but it's not like we're getting like, you know, money and points and stars going off or whatever. It's like more of, oh my God. Oh, well, they just raised the bar again and they're going to raise the bar again. And really, as we're crossing the threshold into 2023, the bar will be so high energetically. I don't think most people understand the preparedness that they really need for it and the role. And I want to finish that point too. You know, if this gets to some form of a crisis point, which is plausible, and it's not a guarantee, but it's plausible at this point. And even if that's just like a hurricane hits or, you know, things like that, you know, earthly disturbances, any kind of level like that, what is your role in a crisis? What would you be able to do for your neighbors? Because I mean, this is another thing that you know, I understand deeply about what we're going into is what is your line of sight in your sphere of influence? And where is your local community? How connected are you to your local community? Because that's going to be important as time moves along in as the year keeps finishing and moving into next year is what's going on with your local community. Be connected to that and at least aware of where they stand and can you are you going to be able to cooperate with them in a crisis or not? You need to know this. You need to have your tight knit things where you're at. You've got to have that scope of where you are amongst what'll be, you know, happening. Because if we do get to this point where everything is not logistically working like it does and we're used to, the convenience of our lives as we're know it to be, we're going to have to deal with what we've got locally. and have that ready to go, you know. So that's, you've got to know what to do individually versus, oh my God, there's a plan for everybody. No, there's not a plan for everybody. It's just like the same. I can't read any individual the same way because that doesn't happen either. It's an individual experience. So your preparation for what's coming as well is also a very individual experience, depending on where you are, who you are. Do you have family? Do you have children? What's your situation? You have parents you have to take care of, think about, all that kind of stuff. That's all the type of things we want to really be just aware of now, better than maybe we have sort of done that.
Certainly, and you were bringing up when you were talking, you were kind of bringing up sort of in a roundabout way a really good point. It's not just enough to prepare physically. We have to prepare spiritually, emotionally, mentally,
Exactly.
and really do the work. Do our spiritual work. Get out into nature. Do your
Yes.
presence, your long, deep breathing, all the spiritual tools we talk about on the channel. Yeah, and people that think maybe I'm a little bit repetitive from video to video. There's a reason that I am, because we're
No,
going to need these tools,
you need the
regardless if we
tools.
avoid a major crisis or not. We're still going to need these tools for
Yeah.
the next phase. It's an awakening.
This is an awakening,
It's
absolutely. And
challenging.
and this is a process that is not a light switch and all will be well because something gets revealed. It's not happening this way. And that's another thing that people out there who are listening to quote unquote truthers, okay, you've got to use your discernment with that
Mm,
too, because especially recently, by the way, in that community, there's a whole community of that. They're trying to pin them against themselves right now, which is an interesting thing to just, again, stepping back and observing. So
that's
some of them are
interesting.
authentic and some of them are not. And it takes, like I said, it takes stepping back and observing how these people are presenting the information, and are they really like fooling you with hopium, because that's another thing you have to watch out for, like whatever it is that you don't want to believe that comes out of the mainstream media. If that doesn't resonate with you, there's people, I think, who are not on the side of the truth as much as they are presenting themselves to be on the side of the truth. So you've got to, like, discernment has to be in every single area of your life at this
Mhm.
point, so that you don't get taken by surprise. Granted, we'll be surprised, but then like I said, you're not going to be like, oh my God, I thought it was going to go this way. And I'm like, no, 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 no. So you got to, again, your line of sight, your sphere of influence, local. Think local. That is the biggest thing you can do in these next couple of months to keep preparing for the remainder of the year. Get into your local base. And backing up again what Adam said, it is not just the physical preparation, it is the mental, it is the emotional, and it is your spiritual practices that are going to be your resilient way you're going to warrior through what's coming.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, you know, again, this is a great time. It's a challenging time. Anytime there's a growth, the old has to fall away. That's
That's right.
challenging. So really be in your heart every day. And I like that term hopium also. um, yeah,
Sorry.
we
Yeah,
have to.
I speak the truth. I try to be delicate. I don't want to be offensive, but I will speak the truth because there's a lot of hopium out there, and don't get caught up in that because that won't help you either.
Well, there's a lot of coyotes, a lot of tricksters and a lot of
Yes,
programming,
there
and you
are.
have to be
Yes,
careful.
there
That's where the discernment comes, especially with this Neptune stuff,
are.
'cause,
Mhm.
there's a program to diminish people's power, no matter what your ideology is. There's a right-wing program, there's a left-wing program, there's a New Ager programming, it's all to get people off of their spiritual game and to keep them disconnected from what's really going on. Smoke screens, like in the Hunger Games, there's always moves and counter moves. So once there's a move and then the public responds, then there's a counter move. Like the
Mhm.
truckers were gaining a lot of recognition. So
Yeah.
there's a counter move. Let's draw more attention to what's happening in Ukraine. In fact, let's, I don't want to say create this war because that's insensitive to the people that are suffering, but certainly the spotlight of the world all of a sudden shifted from
Yes, it sure did.
vaccines
Yes, it sure did, didn't it?
right away to Ukraine. And then
Yeah,
you didn't hear about the freedom truckers, but
magically disappeared.
they
Yeah.
didn't disappear. Right after that, the American version, rode into DC. We didn't hear a darn thing about it. There were riots
Yeah,
all
the
over.
one that happened here
Didn't
was
hear a
like
darn
all
thing about it.
so flat, like it was like
And
there was nothing going on.
basically Trudeau, who was saying, we support peaceful protest. After 2 months of this peaceful protest, arrests were made and bank accounts were seized. So
Yeah.
there's the nature of technology. We have to understand the art of
Mhm.
technology and how it's being applied. So we really, again, study and learn your history. Learn what
Yes.
happened. This has been going on a long time. It's just the the ante's higher, the stakes are higher. So
The
you
stakes
know
are a lot
this
higher
is the
right
big
now.
big clash of those that want to be in their sovereignty, that want to be in their heart, be in their spirit, versus those that really want to take that away, to disempower and to spread their agenda. So the metaverse, the all that stuff is coming. That's already coming, and
Mhm.
so it's
And
all
to
this an
when
end game that's
when you
starting to
touched
come
upon,
into view.
know your history,
Yeah.
there's another aspect in explaining, in looking at the transits in America's chart. So one of the things that was going on over the winter is that we had, which hadn't happened since the Civil War, was we were in a Neptune opposed natal Neptune in our birth chart.
Hello.
This
Well said.
aspect has not been back to the same point, except the last time I was doing this, we were engaging in this. We were just about to engage in the Civil War, and now, meanwhile, obviously, the way information could travel and be circulated in 1860, leading up into it, was totally different than it is now. But what is happening now is the same, like you just said. You've got to discern it. It's all confused. They're trying to trick you. They're telling you this, they're telling you that. That may not be the truth, but you've got to know your history. So if you understand the history of what led up to the Civil War in this country, you'll understand what's going on right now.
It's happening at a whole new level
And
now.
as this Neptune just stationed and turned retrograde yesterday morning, we're going to get another direct over that later in the year too, when
That's
Neptune
right.
will exactly be opposing the country's natal Neptune again, and that comes later on in the year as well, before it turns direct again, and which won't be until, no, I think it's very early December. So we got a lot of, like I said, we got a lot of things coming that just keep pounding.
That's the plan. And of course, I'm not a conspiracy theorist either. But if I were, I would look at SCOTUS, the Supreme Court ruling, and think that, are they trying to actually catalyze a civil war? You're trying to really get the different
Well, it
sides
was a
more
good way
against
to
each
get
other.
people divided, wasn't it? I mean, look,
Yeah, I
look at
mean, of
the heat
course,
that
I'm not
came
a
out of that.
conspiracy theorist, so I'm not saying that. But if I was, I'd be looking at that. I'll put it that way.
Look
And
at the heat.
everything else that's been going on, ever since the most polarizing figure in the world was made the president, how that happened in 2016, and then this polarizing figure was not controllable by the powers that be, so was basically ousted in 2020. Again, that's if I was a conspiracy theorist. I
Yeah,
might be looking at that and getting clues into what the end game is and what the plan here is.
yeah. But in the hopium, I don't think he's coming back to save
I
anybody.
don't.
And
I
I
never
really
got
want
that.
people to, if you take anything away out of what I just said tonight, get off that hopium train, because that is just not happening.
I've been telling people since
There's
back
a
in the
help. There,
election,
there
that's not
is
going to
something
happen.
he
Yeah,
is helping with, but it's not. It's
right.
not
Right.
going to be the way that has been presented at all. And
Right.
if anybody falsely led people, that was terrible to do. I thought I mean, I just look at the people who created that narrative in that other context, and I'm just like, how could you do that to people? I mean, people are already like distraught and upset, and then you just tell them another lie that they believed because they to give them hope. Like,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
and that's where I'm like, if you don't have discernment in these times, you're just going to fall for anything because you have to stand for something, you
Yeah.
know. But you and I have said it many times, standing on the left or the right is not the place because it's the same freaking bird. And
Right.
and,
That's
and,
bigger
and
than that.
here's how I look at it and how this Pluto return will affect this country as time moves along here. Chop the head off the bird. It's
Basically,
done.
yeah.
It's
It's
done.
not
The
working. Yeah.
system doesn't work anymore, and the whole system needs to be reborn because it is the politics of this country that have ruined it. And I don't care what side of the coin you stand on, the politics don't work. The cycles don't work, 4 and 8 year terms and all of this. I mean, they have to change the
And the
whole,
electoral, I mean, come
they have
on.
to
That
change
was
the
from the
entire
slave
structure
days.
of it for it to actually function properly at this point. I mean, I've heard the terminology. It's a dumpster fire in DC. It's just what it is. I mean, it's a mess. It's a mess. It just needs to be, which
Oh,
I think is plausible. Uh, eventually. So we'll see how long that takes.
yeah. So you guys that came in late, this will upload as a video so you can watch the whole thing later. I want to say. And I think, yeah, that was a great job again. I don't really have anything else to add. I think, this is
Spirit, don't want to back any of that up.
good. I mean, other than this video is probably not going to be monetized, but hey, it's not about the few dollars I would get anyways. It's about getting the information out there and again, giving us the opportunity to make our own decisions, presenting information,
Yeah.
you presenting that we don't know the facts. What I
Huh.
say is my opinions from what I'm observing and maybe what spirits downloading. But when it happens, it happens. So the old axiom, you prepare for the worst, hope for the best.
Yes.
And
I say hold faith. I don't like hope at
hold
all.
faith,
I'm done
and
with
hold
the
faith.
hope
I like
thing.
that too. But
I
I
like,
find
you know what? You just gotta hold faith for the best. Forget about hope. I don't just hope is so flat for me as a
all right,
word.
fair enough. But I've noticed
You know
that.
me with the words. I'm like, hope is not as doesn't carry any of the strength that faith does. So
That's true. Yeah,
yeah,
hope. Yeah, I get that. Hope is sort of an outlier energetically in a way, but yeah, but that's
you
the
can hope all
idea.
day long and nothing happens. It
That's
doesn't, like, even when you think of like setting intentions,
yeah,
like, you don't do it in a hopeful way.
yeah.
You
You
do
do it
it
in a
in a
faith-based
faithful
way.
way.
Yeah,
There's just a total energetic like dynamic that will pull in something completely different.
yeah. I
Uh,
know hope is all Neptunian anyway. Well, faith is too because that's Pisces, right? I believe so. Yeah.
faith, no, to me, faith is your faith is Jupiter
Oh, okay. I
because
that
it's
makes
your
sense.
truth.
Yeah,
To me, faith ties into your personal truth. Hope, well, they call it your hopes, your dreams, your wishes, is Aquarius. So that's that socialization
that's
area
different.
of
Yeah.
your life. But like hope, I guess, yeah, that could be a little dreamy and delusional and
I
Aries.
get what you're saying. Yeah,
Neptune as
I
well.
think Jupiter is very strong in Pisces anyway, so that would make
But
sense.
Neptune, when you're using Neptune energy, whether it's through the 7 vibrations or it's in a Pisces transit of any kind, is you are, looking at intuition
Mm,
and looking at your
got
silent
it.
listen abilities, looking at your ability to be an observer. You've got to see through the mystery and see through the layers and believe in what you can't see in order to pull in the knowing that Neptune is able to do for you. Which is why it's so important at this time not to believe anything at any face value and take it in for yourself. Like you said, Adam, tie it into your heart, and if your heart doesn't feel it, it is probably not right,
Yeah,
or your gut isn't feeling it or whatever that
Yeah, the heart
Connection
feels
is
and knows.
forget
Yeah,
about what the mind wants to do all the time. It's when you sit with it, breathe, and let all this stuff come in.
exactly.
Then you can let your body will give you signals beyond what you're this thing always gets us all in trouble. It's great for the nerdy math stuff, but
Well, you know, the mind can get programmed, but the heart can't. You know,
no,
that's the key
the
thing.
heart always knows that.
The heart always knows. And when you work with the heart, you know, with heart brain coherence, it brings the brain into
And then
coherent
yeah, your
wavelength.
brain doesn't get carried away anymore.
And then you're in the heart vibration in the brain. So anyway, I just
Exactly.
flashed Rita's information
Be
because
here all day.
because you know it's helpful for you to know how these aspects are individually affecting you, because your chart is different than my chart. So
Yeah.
what houses these aspects come in all has a personal meaning. So her information is there if you and she has her blog posts and a lot of other goodies, her Patreon group. So the website is there. You talk to her. You know, Sharita needs company. She needs conversation. So talk to her, and maybe
We are never bored talking about what your aspects and your cycles of consciousness have to do with your human experience. Yep, that's
but
pretty
in
much
any
what we
way,
do. Connect the dots, you know.
before my computer runs out of juice, I think we're gonna tie it up now.
Okay. Well, thank you as always. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here live tonight. And thank you for watching this as a video in the aftermath. And we'll see you on the next one.
Lovely. See you on the next one. And Sharita will be back. And tomorrow at 1 o'clock, I'm going to go live to do my personal July psychic forecast. A lot of it's going to be um, overlaying what Sharita's saying, overlaying what I gave you on the new moon, which just happened also. So anyway, all right. Great. Thank you so much for sharing and being here
As
and
always.
using your time to help support this community and to help enlighten us and to help us on our way to empowerment, to freedom and truth. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Namaste, everyone.
Namaste. Have a beautiful evening and rest of your day.